Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at mass gesture. Mass gesture is very different from line gesture in that it's not in any way about edges or about line at all. It's about shape. Mass gesture is a type of gesture drawing where the artist draws the mass of the form that they're looking at. It's the solid shape or the silhouette of the object that you're observing. So I like to tell people to try and pretend that they took a photograph of a cat and then pretend to cut the cat out of the photograph with your scissors. And then imagine holding up the photo without the cat and look at it. Look at the whole. What does that empty space look like? Because that is what your mass gesture shape should look like. It differs from line gesture in that the artist is drawing from the inside, kind of the center of the object of the form, and stops at the outer edge instead of drawing the outline of the object. So here you can see the cats, and they're kind of drawing the lines here. So this is line gesture. And then here you're looking at the mass of the form. And you can see it's a very different effect. Most students and beginners find mass gesture to be the most easy and accurate of all the gestural applications. It's also the fastest of the gesture applications. Most of the time you can mass in an object in about 1 or 2 strokes of your charcoal and pretty much have the rendering complete. To do a mass gesture, most people break a charcoal into about 1 inch to 1.5 inch stick. You're going to be using the side of the charcoal to block in your forms, and you're going to turn and twist the charcoal as you need to get the silhouette image of the form itself. Before you draw, I always have my students consider the object and make a plan in the air before you ever start the actual drawing. I find it helpful to look through one eye at my subject matter, and I imagine in the air, looking through my one eye, tracing my block charcoal directly over the thing that I'm looking at. And I figure out how I'm going to twist and turn my charcoal to create my gesture before I ever draw on the paper. You always want to press softly, which also means lightly, with little pressure at first, and then you can push harder for heavier, darker value areas. And you can see that really creates kind of the feeling of dimension on the form, where the heavier darks are. Try to see the whole of the form before the individual parts in mass gesture. You want to move your eye and your hand together like in all gesture drawing. You want to draw the most obvious directions and general shapes first. Do not draw the outline and then color it in. Draw only the mass of the object. It's helpful to draw from large to small shapes, looking at the big general shapes first, and then work your way out to these paws and ears if you need to, and maybe a tail if there's a tail. You definitely want to get the whole general shape here first. You can always then go in and add smaller shapes and detail later, once you've established the overall shape and proportions and the position of those objects that you're drawing. If you have time, just in like line drawing, you want to try and show more information, detail, light, spatial distance, especially if you're doing a sustained mass gesture. So here you can see they're working their way up to a sustained mass gesture. They start with this gesture and they don't have enough meat on there to really make it feel weighted enough, so they have added more mass to the body. And now they're starting to put in their darks and their lights and a little bit more detail and facial features. And then here you can see they've started to put line work in to really outline and give more detail and dimension to the form, because they're doing a longer pose. Most mass gesture is going to look like this one. That's what you're hoping for. Mass gesture is often combined with other gestural types like mass and line, which you're seeing here. You can see the details in the hand. There's lines here and here and here. They're also putting in some light source with different materials. Here you can see they've masked in the whole form, and now they're starting to put in the details separating this body from this body from this body, just giving it more information. Here you can see a traditional mask gesture with scribble gesture. So they first put in this giant shape, and then they erased away these lines in scribble, and then also used another pencil to go in and put in the rest of the gestures that are in here, the rest of the line information. You can work in a variety of media, but ink wash and charcoal block are the most common materials used in this method. Many mask gestures also combine varied and diverse media, both wet and dry. They kind of mix the two together. There's also mask gestural types which use line, and those are called scribble gesture and scribble cross contour gesture, and we'll go more in depth in that in a different PowerPoint, so I'm not going to cover it here. But most traditional mask gesture is just about massing in the form or the silhouette shape, and when time, varying pressure for value shapes to start to show what's light and dark in here. You can see that in these. And that's about it for gesture in mass. So hopefully I will see you in the next video.